Attention all warrior moms. Yeah, I said warrior moms because, hey, if you birthed a baby, and I don't care if it was C-section or not, you are a warrior. And my question to you today is, are you ready to unleash the strength that you have within and embrace the determination that is in there somewhere, even if you haven't quite felt it yet? The determination to shield your children from the crazy chaos that we are coming across in today's world. Join me today as I simplify this into 5 steps. Toss in your earbuds and let's go. Hi, I'm Jenna Dix, and I'm always rambling. Just ask my husband. I have a great family and a pretty cool life, but I'm a recovered alcoholic. That's hard to say, but my goal is to inspire and educate to help others hopefully find life beyond an addiction. I'm all things: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Getting healthy, momming, and politics. Get offended easily? You better stop listening. There is no point in wasting that Botox by stressing yourself out listening to a podcast. Welcome to Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Today's episode brought to you by products and services I am thoroughly addicted to. And one thing I am thoroughly addicted to is any product that leaves my home smelling beautiful. I need to introduce you to Michelle Beadles, independent consultant with Scentsy, the brand that brings warmth, comfort, and joy to your life with beautiful fragrance products. Whether you're looking for a cozy scent for your home, a soothing aroma for your workspace, or a thoughtful gift for someone you love, Scentsy's got you covered. Their selection of wax warmers, diffusers, and fragrance products will transport you to a happy place, all while keeping your space smelling fresh and inviting. Try Scentsy today and experience the magic of their scents. Check the show notes to place your order with Michelle today. Welcome to today's podcast. As always, I'm excited to have you here with me. It truly is a really cool honor when I get to hear from anyone, "Oh, I heard on your podcast recently." Like, dude, you listen? That's awesome, right? So with that being said, make sure if you have yet to follow the podcast that you do that on whatever platform you're listening. Makes your life easier. That way you don't have to think about, I need to go in and download. No, if you follow it, it automatically downloads all of the new incoming episodes that I put out. And while you're doing that, if you wouldn't mind giving a rating/review for the podcast, that truly is, I'm learning, a podcaster's love language. So, with that being said, we're going to jump right in. My mama bear side is on freaking fire this week. And I think it's a combination of things. One, I shared in my last episode that I just got back from Washington, D.C., which is true. So I think that's part of the reason. It's like my patriotic side was just so submersed that, the mama bear side of fighting for what I know my girls, other families all deserve in this country. It's just like, it's like beyond on fire. Like, it's like we took kindling times 100 and like soaked me in it. Okay. The two thoughts that just continue to just hang in my head. One, I shared it last episode, was, standing on the speaker's balcony looking out over the back of the Capitol. That was just jaw-dropping, beautiful, goosebumps, tears in your eyes type of experience. And then in addition, walking through the Capitol and seeing, so they have, on the top of the Capitol, there's Lady Freedom, but there's also a replica inside. They use the same mold, so she's the same size, but it's probably in there, I'm assuming, just so that you can see it close up. But they have a statue of Lady Freedom, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it, because it's a truly beautiful statue. So statue of Lady Freedom in the Capitol and above her head, engraved, I guess, in the wall / like ceiling molding, it says, "In God We Trust." And that to me, like, holy moly, like, amen, right? You know, it's on our dollar and all that stuff, and we know that, but like, if your eyes have been opened at all these last few years, like, you know that phrase is going to the wayside, and seeing it ingrained in the molding of that wall, I was just like, this is what our country is built on. These types of morals, these types of values. So that side, the patriotic feel, my mama bear was already going strong. And then I come back to Minnesota, and it's been, you know, I've done podcasts on it already. You know, Gay Pride Month is June. We were kind of already being submersed in that, you know, starting in May, beginning of May, when all their products started to hit the stores, especially Target. But truth be told, like, people have made their crocs about, well, why do we even have Gay Pride Month? It's pretty much now at this point, it feels like it's all year, which there's plenty of days I can totally relate to that comment. But we know that June is dedicated to Gay Pride Month, right? And when I came back to Minnesota, I knew that weekend that I came back was Gay Pride Month here in the Twin Cities, or Gay Pride weekend rather, in the Twin Cities. And I've shared before, you know, in 2016, I attended Gay Pride. I have a family member that identifies as a member of the LGBTQ community. I went in support of that family member. And crazy enough, we actually kind of had a conversation about this in our Bible study group last night of, you know, do we go to things like that? Do we go to gay weddings? Like, if you are a solid believer, and truthfully, it's going to have to come from some solid reflecting in your own heart, conversation with God. I think now in 2023, my decision probably would be a lot different than the decision I made in 2016, but I did the decision that I felt was best for me at that time, based off of where my heart was at, my head was at, my life was at, my family was at, things of that sort. But anyway, I digress. This weekend, Twin Cities Gay Pride. It was also Gay Pride in several other locations across the country. I believe even up in Toronto, Canada, they had their Gay Pride as well. And if you know, Haley and I talked about it a couple episodes ago, how if you're on social media and you follow any accounts that are more aligned with your beliefs, you can very much find yourself in an echo chamber. So as I'm like scrolling my social media, it's a bunch of accounts posting over and over the different things about Gay Pride that they were like, dude, seriously, look at this. This is what's happening. I can also attest to the fact that because I purposely follow accounts from both sides, I was seeing other people like celebrating. Look what's happening. Yay, this is awesome. You know, so I did see things from both sides, but I can tell you the echo chamber side of things, the pieces from the more right side of the spectrum, I was disgusted with a lot of the shit that was happening around the country. And it was just literally repulsive. There's things happening, children in the vicinity. I mean, here in Minnesota, I think from at least what I've seen online, the worst I saw so far, fingers crossed, was a gentleman, which this was disgusting, but during the parade, a gentleman in his tighty whities that did not hold his manhood in very well, or snugly, I should say, rather. They looked a little old, these tighty whities. Just dancing in his tighty whities in the middle of the road during the parade, like grinding and like gyrating and thrusting and shaking his ass, and there's kids all over. And the first thought that went through my head was, holy shit. Like, okay, I grew up in a house that if my dad took a shower and his bathroom was in the basement, if my dad took a shower down there and we were home in the living room up, which he had to like dart through the living room to get up to his bedroom, right? If he forgot shorts, he would literally poke his head out the basement door and say, close your eyes, girls. And, you know, there would be a couple times that like you're doing something or you just don't catch it and he goes darting and you didn't notice fast enough to close your eyes, right? And I still remember he would still cover himself with like his dirty clothes, like one piece of clothing in the front and one piece of clothing in the back, and off he'd run to go get his new clothes. And it's like, okay, my own dad, like, had more modesty than this gentleman dancing in the road in front of strange children, not even his own children, strange children. Okay, so that was Minnesota. That was fucking gross enough, at least for me. But then, like I said, I'm in that echo chamber. I admit that. But then I'm seeing all these other people, like, literally at some of these gay prides, dancing nude in, water fountains, pools, things of that sort. But there were children there. And whatever. If you want to do it as an adult, you're in a group of adults, I guess, do you? But when there's minors around, what the fuck happened to public indecency? Or I don't even remember. Obviously, I was never charged with any of these things, but like, I remember if people would urinate in public, they would get charged, and some of them would have to register as sex offenders. Okay, what happened to laws like that? Like, were those extreme? Yeah. But now we're talking straight up dancing in the nude in front of kids that are not your children. So number one, you have to ask, okay, the people doing it, what are you thinking? Number two, the people bringing their kids, what are you thinking? Okay? So a combination of those two things, the Washington, D.C. full submersion, and then the gay pride, honestly, pissed off feels that I had, right? My mama bear has been going hard these last few days, which when you do work in the political space, I think sometimes that's good. It keeps your fire going. It keeps you motivated. It keeps you on point with direction. Okay. But today I want to talk to you, mom to mom, because I get, and I've admitted, I have an addictive personality. I know that. And having that addictive personality, I can dive in at these types of topics and really decipher it and sort it out faster than the majority because, being more on the addictive side, I can spend hours and hours and hours sorting through this, figuring it out, diving into my determination, creating my action steps, and it doesn't burn me out as fast as it would burn other people out. Okay? So I want to talk today about 5 steps that you can lean into if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, Jenna, I hear you. I agree. The world right now, I know is not going well. The chaos that is out there, the crazy that is out there, I don't want this for my kids. But 1, I'm overwhelmed. Or 2, I don't even know what to do. Right? Or 3, there's a little piece of me that feels a little guilty, which I'll get into that today a little bit as well. But whatever obstacle or barrier you're running into, let's talk about it. Let's talk 5 steps, right? Because if you break things into steps, it just makes it a little bit easier typically. So we're going to read through 5 steps here that hopefully will help you dive into that determination, essentially unleashing that determination. So you can do in your heart what you feel is best for your kids, no matter what obstacle stands in your way. All right, so step number 1. You need to identify what values, what morals, or what focus points, i.e., I typically call this like your hill, right? You need to identify what hill or hills, plural, you want to focus on, or you really are finding struggle with, or you're really finding yourself at odds with. Whether it's, maybe some of the things the schools are doing, or maybe you're finding yourself at odds with the transgender men in women's sports. Maybe you're finding yourself at odds with, like here in Minnesota, some of the new gambling laws where they're going to impact youth sports funding. Whatever your hills are, you need to identify them. That's step 1. Because I can tell you, there's a million flipping hills out there right now. A million. I mean, I just look at, obviously I'm in Minnesota. So I just look at the Minnesota laws. Just the legislation that went through this last session. And there's a shit ton of hills. Then you add things that were already previously there. Things that are, potentially going to be there soon, already being discussed. There's a lot. And if you try to dive in at it all, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And you're going to burn yourself out way freaking faster to the point of just like, I quit. Throw my hands up. I'm walking away. So pick your hills, the ones that truly, your values, your morals, you're just like, I can't not focus on these things. Okay? Step 2. whatever those items are, you need to be able to identify. Essentially, you need to accept them as your own. And you need to identify, okay, where in my heart, what is kind of holding me back? What is almost like contradicting me within, even though I know full out this hill is fucking important to me. Okay? Because I can tell you, I think for the majority of us who have lived and sinned, which let's face it, we all have, there's going to be moments with whatever hill you pick that you're like, dude, I'm an effing hypocrite. Right? There's been plenty of moments where I felt like that. And what I'm going to tell you may not feel warm and fuzzy. You're going to need to get uncomfortable with whatever moral tear you're feeling. That is the first step, unfortunately. You are going to have to acknowledge, dude, this is going to be really uncomfortable. I might feel like shit for a minute. It might even be more than a minute, right? But the why behind that is because more than likely you're running into something that you did or you thought in the past, and now you're feeling like, okay, now I'm standing against that. And I'm standing, opposite of it, but yet I did it. And that's where that hypocritical feel will come in. But I'm telling you, if you're a woman of faith, God knows you weren't perfect. He knows you're not perfect. He knows you had your sin. He knows you continue to sin. But if you stand up and say, okay, I admit it, I am repenting that, we can move on. And then hopefully dive in at that hill with that strength of, yeah, I did it. I repented it. I moved on. I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not a hypocrite. And if it's continuing to pop into your brain that you are a hypocrite over and over and over, even after you've said, okay, yeah, I did whatever, but I repented, sweetheart, that is the devil in your ear. You tell him, I cast you aside. Cover me, please cover me, Lord, from that, evil pushing me back. Because how we need to remember to live is, hey, we do the best we can in the moment. But what that means is once you know better, you do better. All right, so you may be thinking, okay, what the hell was all that jibber jabber babble? Give me some specifics about that, Jenna. Tell me a little bit more about this whole process of, yeah, we did it, face it, repent it, right? Tell me a little bit more. Give me some specifics. All right, so I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to open up a little bit here. So obviously this show is called Ramblings of an Addict. I've had my rounds with booze itself, but a lot of times when booze is involved, people make poor decisions, period, right? And I will admit I made some poor decisions even when booze wasn't always involved. My life in my 20s and my very early 30s was one now to this day, like there's a lot of moments I'm like, holy crap, that's really embarrassing. Or that has potential to be really embarrassing, some of the things I did. For example, like obviously, like Mac is here and I was not married when we had Mac. There were plenty of times that, I went out and I hung out with people I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with. I went to parties I probably should not have gone to. I hung out with people that I should not have been with. And while hanging out with party people, a lot of times you do really dumb shit. And some of the things I did contradict some hills I now stand for. Okay? And you've heard this with people that, like, for example, people that are now, they claim I am so pro-life. And then they admit, in my past, I had an abortion. Do we say, hey, you're a hypocrite, you can't stand for pro-life now because you had an abortion? Well, that's what the devil would tell them, right? That's what far extremists on the other side would probably tell that person. But if this person has said, holy crap, that's the life I lived, I acknowledge it, I own it, I've repented it. I've shared that with Jesus. And I'm trying to now teach others with my testimony. In my opinion, what the hell is hypocritical about that? They're using their testimony to their advantage. And that is what life is about. Helping others learn from the life you lived. That is my whole role as a health coach. That is my whole role with this podcast. Hopefully being able to help lead someone by saying, hey, yeah, alcohol can be a really nasty hook. But you don't have to stay stuck there, right? And I can tell you this. Another piece with all of this. So you're sitting there and you're as a mom, you're like, oh, yeah, but you know what? Some of those mistakes that I made that now I'm like, whew, goodness, I repent that. But I've heard this from more than one mom, myself at points included. Okay, yeah, I've repented it. That wasn't the best choice. But at the same time, it taught me a lot, it was fun. Like, let's not even sugarcoat this shit. Let's be honest. It was fun. Some of those things I did was fun. And then when you think about your kids, you're like, well, I don't want them to be so perfect they never have the fun, right? I don't want them to be so perfect they don't know what real life is about. Those moments where you get to make those mistakes. Well, I can tell you, I know that my girls are going to fuck up. They are. I'm sure they do it now, just in different ways. But I hope that the ways they screw up are different. That they're, for lack of better terms, that their ways they screw up can almost look down on the ways I screwed up. Because they can still have fun with theirs, right? I want them to be on higher moral ground because of the life I'm choosing to live now and the life that I'm choosing to lead them through. Everyone's going to screw up. We just have to hope that as we continue to push our level up as a mom, our kid will be on that same ground and possibly even hit a peak above ours, because that's our goal, right? Our kids should be better. So, per usual, a little bit of rambling there, but would this podcast be anything but some rambles, right? The key, my friend, is that you need to know there's going to be moments if you select any hill that you're going to think, wow, but I'm kind of hypocritical in XYZ. If it's one that's truly, coming from the heart because of a testimony piece in your heart. So hopefully that makes sense. I think this is why a lot of moms get stuck and they don't even choose a hill. Because how am I going to say somebody's doing something wrong when I did that something wrong before? Or I believed that way before? Well, we live, we learn, we do better. We repent, we move on, and we teach. So step 1, identify the hills. Step 2, you're going to get a little uncomfortable, right? You need to admit and repent and move on and use it to your advantage as you teach from that testimony. Step 3, you need to be able to accept these ideas as your own and stop being quiet about them. Okay, so you've selected the hill. You've admitted, okay, yeah, I wasn't perfect about it, but I want to move past that. Well, in step 3, get loud. In whatever way that is to you. Getting loud to you might mean, having small one-on-one conversations with people. Or, maybe you are all about the public platform and you're going to be up there with a microphone or on social media, or you're going to run for public office. But stop keeping it to yourself. Number 1, you better be teaching your kids about it, right? Showing them the why behind your thoughts with this hill. Because otherwise, how are they going to know? But number 2, start helping the public beyond just your family. Helping your family is going to be great, and that's your role as a mom. But the trickle-down effect, you teaching your family and then teaching others, it's going to spread a lot farther than you just teaching your kiddos. If you think, let's take this biblical here for a second. So in Proverbs 22, verse 6, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old enough, he will not depart from it. That is why you need to teach your children. Because if you teach them, they'll continue to live that way. If you keep your mouth shut, I don't want to infringe my ideas on them, or I don't, you hear that a lot with parents right now on the left. Like, for example, I'm thinking the gender selection thing that some of these parents are doing. I'm not teaching them what gender they are. They'll pick. Well, number one, y'all know where I stand, right? There's two genders. God selects that gender. You are what you are, right? If you train up a child in the way that he or she should go, he won't depart from that. That's the hope. That's the training. There are going to be forces, especially in today's world right now, we've seen it firsthand, that are going to push against that. But you got to do your part as a mama to train them up. That is your job. God gifted you that baby to train them up in his word, in his way, in his path. Because, like I said, he gifted them to you. Think about it. Who else, number one, is going to train them up? Typically, if anyone actually is going to try, they're not going to do it in a really great way. Every once in a while, we get lucky and we get a solid mentor for our kids or something of that sort. But right now, we are seeing more numbers on the other side of it. People that were like, what the hell are you trying to teach kids? What are you doing? Right? So in addition to teaching them, you got to remember, you're picking these hills, you're picking these focuses, you're getting loud for them. Because who else is going to do it for them? Are you sitting there and hoping that someone else sticks their neck out for their kid on a hill that you find value in? And it's just going to, in essence, trickle over to your family? I can tell you there's a lot of parents and families doing that for whatever reason. Personally, I find that the lazy way. I don't find that the best way. I think God expects more from us as parents. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take guts. But that's my personal opinion. If that's where you're sitting thinking, well, shit, I hope Jenna continues to stand on that hill that's really important for her and her girls because I also see value and I hope that impacts my kids well. Dude, stand up and link arms with me. And obviously that's just a very general over-the-top example, but whatever parent you're seeing standing up, stand up with them. Step number 4. This kind of goes hand in hand with that last little bit there. Find your support network. Find those other parents that you are going to link arms with. Whether you find them in a support club or at a church group, or maybe, there's a cause that you're really focused on and you all find each other online talking about it. Or, maybe you are really pro-life, for example. Maybe that's your hill and you go to a rally and you meet people that you link arms with. Finding these people, number 1, so you can make more progress together. Number 2, so you know you're not alone. It's going to help with your strength and your resilience. When you know you're not alone, it's so much less defeating. I'll be transparent. This morning I had a moment where I was just very defeated with something within the political arena that I was focusing on. I was very just down in the dumps about it. And I reached out to a fellow mom that I know has a very similar focus for that kind of reboot. Like, okay, here's my thought. I said, I don't want to be a negative Nelly. This is my thought right now. Help me brainstorm on this. And we did. And I walked away from that conversation feeling much better about myself. All right, step number 5. Celebrate your victories. Celebrate those victories that are super important to you. that you are making, even if they are very small. Maybe you make a post and it got a lot of likes, or on your platform. Don't get into that social media swirl too much, but maybe you went to a rally for the first time, or whatever your type of victory is, celebrate it and share it with others. Number one, it's going to be encouraging to you, more fuel to your fire, but two, it's going to encourage other people as well. So, to quickly sum those up, step number one, you need to identify what your hills are. Step two, you need to admit that, hey, you may not have always been okay with that hill. You may not have always done awesome with that hill. You repent, you move on, and you teach from your experience. Step three, stop being quiet. Step four, find those support network pieces that you need to keep yourself going strong. And step five, celebrate any win that you make when it comes to your hills. Parenting is hard. I think we all know that. Every day has its own adventure, per se. I don't think there's a single person that's going to be like, oh, parenting is so freaking easy, right? But it is part of our responsibility to protect our littles. And part of that in today's world is protecting them from this broken world. So now I've given you 5 steps to hopefully somewhat simplify this process. And you need to remember, do not expect that it's going to be an easy journey as you do this either with those 5 steps. But know that there's other mama bears out there. Already started in these fights, already started on those hills. Join arms with them. Because it's just as much your responsibility to stand up with those moms as it's their responsibility to stand up for their families. Keep nurturing the spirit within you to fight for what you know is right. Right for your kids, right biblically. These are the things, protecting those babies, guiding them in the right direction. Nurturing them in a way that you know is right for your family. Remember, you are not alone in this. And your impact as a warrior mom truly can be incredible. Remember, every single day you wrap yourself in that armor of God and go forward and conquer. Until I catch you in the next ramblings, stay strong, stay determined, and keep that fire burning bright. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Remember, if you are battling an addiction, reach out for help and support. There are many resources available to assist in your journey towards recovery. Surround yourself with a supportive community and never give up on the path towards a healthier and happier life. I appreciate you taking the time to listen and joining me on this journey. As you heard, I'm always rambling. But seriously, thank you for your support and make sure to subscribe and follow my channel. I can't wait to share more with you on the next episode. Until then, keep on rambling. If you have found this podcast helpful and want to dive deeper into personal growth and self-improvement, be sure to head over to my website, jennadix.com. You'll find a wealth of resources there. There is a little less drugs, sex, and rock and roll these days, but whether you're interested in getting healthy, information on momming or parenting, or politics, jennadix.com has something for everyone. So, what are you waiting for? Head to jennadix.com today and start your journey towards personal growth and self-awareness. See you there.